too. So it's 2 after the hour. Do I just start, or can you hear me? Yes, okay. So I guess I start. So thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and even so far away. I hope you had a good lunch and are ready for the afternoon sessions. I'm Philippe, based in Tel Aviv. We just had breakfast, and we start this new day, which is eventful when we see on the world on the geopolitical arena. And I hope that things work out for everyone in the world right now. Okay, so let me start. When, who, and how to start a family office. I want just to introduce myself. My name is Philippe J. Weil. I'm married, have 3 children, live here in Tel Aviv, Israel, but originate from Switzerland. I was born and raised in Zurich to a family which had a family business going for a few generations, which I will elaborate a bit more later. I started my career my banking career at the bank in Julius Baer Bank in Zurich, followed by Gutzwiller Bank, a small bank in Basel, then JP Morgan, more known. And then in 1996, I moved to Israel, where I built up a private banking division of a local bank. Before becoming my own boss in 2001, I started my own business as external asset manager, but rather quickly I understood that the family office is more interesting. So I became a multifamily office and carved myself a little niche out where I'm not only talking about financial capital, I'm dealing with the bigger issues of family wealth. I authored a book called Woes of the Rich, which first in Hebrew and then it came out in English, which deals exactly with those issues, which are not the monetary issues, but also the monetary issues, but not only the financial capital, but also how families should run their family office, what's needed, what's all around the money. Now let's dive in. And for the example, I'm giving a typical family where we have a founder who needed food on the table and decided to start a business. The business was all the resources of the family, obviously, in one direction. The business, mom, pops, children, everyone works in the business. There's one goal, that the business succeeds. Or to quote my father, who once said in a corporate newsletter, business first, family second. This is how this industry works. If you want to start a business and be successful, you put all your resources in there. You are a one-man show. Everyone has to serve that goal. And of course, there is no steering committees, no board members, no process of how to run the business. It's a one-man show. It's a dictatorship. It's a kingdom, whatever you want to call it. The successful businessman or the successful businesswoman is running the show. And of course, usually this was done because of a need for financial stability. And therefore, it's simple beginnings, bootstrapped. At the beginning, it was very hard. And the founder of the business, even so he succeeded tremendously in his life, he still remembers the days when he had to count every penny and every cent. And how them usually quote, I got up early in the morning, went to the wholesale market, carried all the heavy boxes, and then did retail. And I bought at 2, sold at 4, and with this 2%, I succeeded in the business. So very smart, but of course no formal education. The success comes because they were at the right time at the right place, and they knew what to do with it. But how we call it in our profession, they are strangers to paradise. They have no clue how to be rich, how to manage something bigger. They do it intuitively, and it worked very well for them. Now, such a person obviously does not need a family office. He or she runs it by herself. She might have a personal assistant who is much more than a personal assistant because he or she will run everything. She's the center of the family. She knows where everyone is. She knows where the money is. She knows how everything goes, she or he. So the center of the operation is the personal assistant of the founder. It's a one-man show, and then something very odd happens, and that's nature. The second generation moves up. Now, the second generation, because the dreams of the parents obviously were that the second generation has it better. So they sent them to the best schools in the world and financed the best education. Those kids are born to the business, to an existing business. They are in the village, in the town, in the community, known as the children of that successful businessman. They are the spoiled kids, as the father or the mother will call them. They will tell their grandchildren all the time, or their children, we had to walk 5 kilometers to get to school. You are being chauffeured to school. So all these stereotypes, which I'm allowing myself to talk about, are what happens at home. Dad is going to work very early. Dad always did everything on his own with a little pencil and a piece of paper. And he doesn't understand why you need computers, why you need steering committees, etc. And the question also is, why is my daughter or my son not working in the business? It's not, does everyone has to work in the business? The person, the founder, is usually offended that if someone wants to learn medicine or someone wants to be a lawyer instead of going into or an artist or a gardener and not coming to the business. Even so, the business is run like a dictatorship, and it's very difficult for the next generation to move in and be fulfilled. It's very difficult to transit from a monarch to mentor. It's very difficult to do the transition. Look at Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles. She's 90-something, in a good health, but still 90-something, and he's 73 and still waits until he gets his job, and he can't even go to the competition. He has to wait. We know that the CEO, the chief executive, is the father figure, but also the mother is the CEO because she's the chief emotional officer. She actually is the one who can move the needle a little bit when the children want to get something from dad and the father, because he's business oriented, doesn't listen. The mother has the ears. The mother is actually where the things are really happening. Now, the next generation, most probably in the eyes of the first generation, should start in the mailroom. They should start at the bottom of the line, on the bottom of the business, and learn the business from down up. But you send them to university and they have a degree in economics and have an MBA from Harvard, and they want to rule and they want to be the big management team. And this is the first clash and the first problem in the business. So the second generation doesn't really know how to manage the business as long as the patriarch or the matriarch are still active, because they want to have management committees, they want to have department heads, they want to take decisions in a structured way, they want to have process in the system, and everything has to be organized the way we learned it at the MBA school. But the father or the mother are just taking decisions without even informing the children about those. So the ownership structure on top of it, obviously either the business is still owned only by the parents, or eventually it goes over to the children, but also there the control lies with the senior generation, and very hard and very difficult to let go. And especially in certain cultures, and most probably in ours and in yours, in Asia and in the Middle East, the respect to the elder and the respect to the principle of the family is so that the next generations just has to accept it and will wait impatiently or patiently for their time in the sun. Now, the family office doesn't exist. But here, because it's became more complex, it's not only the PA, not only the personal assistant of the first generation who runs the issues of the family. There is also the CPA and the CFO of the business, which suddenly also has the job to make sure that the vacation home is paid and that the plane is registered in the right place, etc. So the complexity of the family wealth beside the business, the family wealth becomes more complex, but there is no family office, there is no structure, there is no process, there is no governance. Everything is run by the personal assistant and the CFO, Perhaps the CPA and the lawyer are helping with it, and the whole organization is not struggling, but the whole organization is trying to find a way to work with the patriarch or matriarch and be a sibling partnership on the same time. And you see the circles here. You are owner, you are the business, and you're the family. They're all over. In all those circles, there is one circle. There is not actually three different circles. It's a sibling partnership. Very difficult. Most of the time, there's no family office yet. Now we come to the complicated world, where the circles are not always on top of each other. You might be an owner and not involved in the business. You might be working in the business and not be family member. You might be a family member and being an owner and being in the business, or being a family member and being in the business but not an owner. So you have many different positions in that three-circle diagram. And look at the family. It's getting complicated. There's marriage and divorce. There's second marriage. There's patchwork families. First children of the first marriage, children of the second marriage. God forbid, there's some gold diggers who moved into the family. There is many things which can happen, and you always think, why do they happen to me? But they do, in every family, and all the time. There is not one family which doesn't have some issue about divorces or patchwork family. It is happening in every family, at least in the third generation, if not before. You have age differences today at the grandchildren level, which can be generation. The oldest grandchild can be 30, 40 years old, whereas the youngest is just born. Even in one family with 3 or 4 siblings, the next generation can have a big age difference, which makes it even more complicated how to move the next generation into the business. Now, there might be gender issues because the boys in an old traditional society, the boys got the business, the girls didn't got the business, the son-in-laws, the daughters, etc. So you will have a lot of issues. How I like to say, the in-laws become the outlaws, and a lot of things are happening. Now, who can handle all this? The patriarch or the matriarch are by this time already very old, still very committed to the business, but to deal with all those family issues are very difficult for them. The second generation are in the middle of the storm and cannot deal with their own problems themselves. The personal assistant of the family business founder and the CFO of the business are not actually skilled enough to do those things. The CFO is most probably an accountant. The lawyer the family uses is a corporate lawyer. It has nothing to do with family law. Doesn't understand anything. The second wife and the grandson and all those, they are not business issues. They are not a new line in the business. They're not ordering a new machine. They're not opening a new market. They are much complicated issues. And again, the family asks themselves, but we worked so hard to work the business out and to have, the business by now most probably is a bit more structured. We have discussed every possible crisis and risk the business can get. But we never thought that the family is the one which brings the business down or makes it complicated and not the business. So here we are. We need professionals to run the family side of the business. Everything has become much more complex and complicated. And imagine the founder. He or she started from nothing, came from the village to the city, get up early in the morning to the wholesale market, moved and carried the boxes, had to walk 5 kilometers to school, and all those stories you always hear from your ancestors, which are true and which are romantic. But they will not be able to deal with cousin rivalries. They are not able to deal with the modern technology and all those things which make it more complicated. The new world by itself is a threat to the old generation. But then if it's inside a family business which is an amazing, amazing achievement for the family, because you must imagine you come from nothing and suddenly you have a big business. It's an amazing achievement, but the issues which come with it are overwhelming. And the tradition in the business is also changing. You can't run a big conglomerate with pencil and piece of paper. So let's talk about wealth transition, because it's not only if you have a business, it's also if you have only money, if there's only financial assets, stocks, bonds, funds, real estate, whatever, investments. Also there, it is very difficult to run an investment portfolio for a family. Wealth is not self-perpetuating. We know that Warren Buffett always says that the eighth wonder of the world is the compound interest. Yes, mathematically, money grows. But the wealth transition is the problem, not the growth. The IRR and the performance and all this, and Sharpe ratio and all the things you want, all the mathematical and portfolio management theories you have, they work wonderful. But the human being inside this is the issue. Transferring wealth effectively from one generation to the next is not easy. Now let's see what are the reasons. And you might say, okay, bad management, or the wrong investments, or the money was spent, or all those things. But it's not true. The issues, the four leading reasons why things don't work out well in the family business or in a family of wealth is because there is no communication, or there is no real communication. Because there is no preparation of the next generation. Because it's one thing to do an estate planning, but it's another thing to actually prepare the next generation for the estate. So it's not only the tax issues, and it's not only the legal issues, it's not only the fiscal money issues which are important when you do the estate planning. It is also thinking who will be the heirs and how will they behave with all this new money or new responsibilities in the business. How will they receive it? And if you are a good role model, and if you educated your children and by doing and not by directive, but by showing them what is a good person and what is a real business decision and how you run a business, and they learn from the parents, and they learn also in university, but they get the tools. If they're well prepared and you see that they're well prepared, then you can also transition the business. But you need to be able to communicate correctly with the children. If in a normal family business, not in the British royal family, but in a normal business, if the patriarch or matriarch, when the child, the next generation, the raising generation is 20, 25 years old, takes them to a table and says, listen, I'm 45, 50 years old. I have another 20 or 30 years, which I want to fulfill my dream of this business, to grow it and to improve it and whatever. I'm sitting in my chair of the chairman for at least another 25 to 30 years. Young man, young woman, go out into the world and learn as much as you can of how to run a business. Get experience in another country. Get experience in another industry. Get experience out there somewhere. Work and learn so that when I am ready to give the business on to the next generation, you will be a good partner, a viable successor to the business. This is a patriarch, matriarch who plans the future correctly and who communicates correctly to the next generation that you have to build your own tree. You have to grow your own tree. You have to be someone by yourself. And once you are that, you will be the best guy or person or woman to run the family business for the next generation. If you're sitting in the shade, if you're sitting behind or aside or walk aside the patriarch all your life to wait until the business falls into your lap, you're most probably not the best candidate for that job because you have never had to take decisions and work hard. It's not true for every family. It's not true for every business. But what is important, and we all know the story about this butterfly who a child finds a cocoon with a butter which just opens and the butterfly tries to get out. and he sees that the butterfly is struggling to get out of the cocoon. So the child takes the cocoon and opens it up so that the butterfly can fly. And to his surprise, the butterfly cannot fly. Because the butterfly can only fly if he has to fight the cocoon, if he has to learn the muscles of the ailes. And learn to fly is using the muscles, pushing until the cocoon opens by itself, by your force that you pushed your wings, and then up you can fly. So let the children learn how to push. Let the children learn, the next generation, the rising generation, let them learn how to be business people, and then they are the best candidates for running the show. Not if you don't prepare them. So sorry, I lost myself a little bit here, but in effective governance, of course, if you have processes in place, if you wrote a family governance, a family constitution, who, what, when, how much you pay family members, which family member can be in the business, which family member cannot be in the business, what are the skill sets you need in the business, and all this. If there is a governance, how the business is run vis-a-vis the family and how the family is part of the business, then also that is an important part. It's 1/5 of the wealth transition's failures, that doesn't exist. And the rest is what to do with the wealth and others. Thank you, Jean-Luc. And then we move on. The transition, remember, those are the issues of transition. Now I make a little break, parenthèse, because I want to show you my own family. Because I'm not only preaching and talking, I'm actually also a client. My family story starts in the 1890s when my great-grandfather married into another family, to my great-grandmother, and they had a little business, and he had a little business, and they merged it and started a textile manufacturing business for women apparel. In the 1890s, in Switzerland, on the border between to Switzerland and to Germany, 1 hour away from Zurich, in a little town, beautiful little town on the River Rhine, there was a little factory. You see the picture here in 1906. There were mainly young women, most probably today they will be underage, or working in the factory and with needle and making women apparel, mainly aprons and collars and stuff like that, but doesn't matter. So the business was being built by my great-grandfather, small little factory. World War I was, of course, not so easy. Then my grandfather moved in. You see here in 1939 the picture of my grandfather and my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather had this beautiful mustache, looked like Emperor William or Emperor Franz Joseph. So they were running the business together. My great-grandfather died 1940, just that after the outbreak of World War II. What a day today to remember that. I hope we didn't start World War today, but it's the same region. Ukraine is just south of Poland. So anyway, 1940, Solomon Weil, my great-grandfather, passes away. My grandfather packs his family and moves to America because he was afraid of Hitler and was afraid that the family would perish or suffer from the Nazi Germany. So 1940, my father was already born. My grandfather took the family to America. They lived there for 4 years. They came back 1945, and the business was still there, and they revived it. My father joined the business 1954, and my grandfather died just half a year before I was born in 1967. I carry his name. He was Jacob Weil, and I'm Philippe Jacob Weil. So my grandfather, Kobe Weil, died in 1967. My father renewed the whole thing, built a new factory, built a new business, enlarged it, and made it big. Then the oil crisis came in the beginning of the 1970s. Two friends of my father told me, why don't you learn a bit how to manage a family business and how to manage a factory? Go to Harvard. My father went to Harvard, did the AMP, the Advanced Management Program, 1972. He came back, looked at the business in the American way of managing a business and said, sorry, manufacturing textile in Switzerland doesn't make sense. If you are a high-end brand, perhaps yes, but if you just do what we did, it's better to do it offshore those days in Asia. Hong Kong and Japan and China was, I think, the market where he was looking at. But he understood that producing abroad and bringing it to Switzerland and then finishing it in Switzerland also doesn't make sense. So he liquidated the family business, which was founded in the 1890s. So after about 80 years, he liquidated the family business, sold the machines, gave the factory building a new meaning, sold the factory building, placed the workers in other industries, and that's it. No more family business. Now, the big question here is this the end? Is this the end of our family? Is this the end of the legacy? No, it wasn't. It was perhaps strange, and my dad had to go and work. My father was 45 years old when he liquidated the business, so he started a new career as commodity trader, but that's a different story. So what happened is that my father put the money aside and started saving money and thought, what can I do with this money? And he bought real estate. During his old age, getting older and unfortunately also dementia, I started running the operations for him. And I sat down with my siblings and said, guys, what my father looks at as savings is actually a business, because he was so successful in working as a commodity trader that he has so much money, which he put into real estate, of course not leveraged, and of course very conservative. But these savings are actually a little real estate fund. We could actually optimize it a little bit, leverage it a little bit. All my banking knowledge came there, and make it into a business. And this would be very nice for our generation, the next generation, perhaps even one more, to have a very nice passive income of rental income from Swiss real estate. So that's what we did. My father died 2016. You see here on the left side, the whole family. We had a family reunion in Switzerland just a year after our father passed away. And we sat down and decided to keep the real estate together as one business. We founded a company, 4W Real Estate. And today we own the same real estate we had. We added even some more to it. We do some leveraging, we do management, we regroup, make a portfolio beautiful, and hopefully the family will enjoy it for many years to come. And we have a new family business. So we are not in women apparel, so we don't have a factory, but we are still together and we still take decisions together, and with a very smart constitution and governance and next generation involvement, etc. So what I have to say, of course, as usual, is we deal with the business of the family, not with the family business. Family offices don't run the business. Even if it's a financial business, even if it's only bankable assets, only always with guillemets, it's not only, but if you have a factory and you have productions, so you have a real business, that's clear that you have managers and department heads and stuff like that. But also if you have financial assets, it's not the family office who manages it. The family office makes the reports. The family office does perhaps the taxes, but the family office is not in deciding what's being done in the investments. For that, you need your professionals, if it's in-house or out-house, but outsourced. You might use a bank, you might use a management company, you might use an asset manager, you might use a fund manager. But definitely your family office is dealing with the issues of the family. You have many issues to deal with beyond the financial capital. Now, if you own a business, the business is run, as we said, by the management. There might be that in the business there's family employees. We are here on the left side of the diagram. The business is run by whoever is best to run the business. The business has a board. The board might be outside directors and family directors. But who elects those family directors? So inside the family, you need a family board, which are the people who are running the business side of the family. The family board is elected by all the family members. And there is where the family office is coming in. The family office is not running the family business. The family office is running looking that all family members are seen and heard, that all family members are part of the story. And if one family member has a PhD in economics and he knows how to look at the balance sheet and knows how to a business functions, so he's a good guy and a good source to help his cousin who is an artist, or to help his cousin who is a doctor, or to help his cousin who is traveling the world and has not yet found his or her calling, what to do productive in life. So this means that a family is a family and remains a family, and every family member is an important member of the family. Not only the guy who runs the business or the woman who is in the board of the business or is running the business or is running a division in the business. No, it is all of the family is important in the family. And all of the family has to be serviced and seen and heard. And then inside the family, you pick the ones which are best skilled to do a job for the family. And the family board picks the ones which they think that should be directors in the business. And the directors of the business, the family board, the business board elects who should run the business. This is the way it has to work. And this is the only way that it will work. Because if there's no structure, if there no order, you will have this. Next slide. You will have lots of communication between everyone in the family, but no one really knows what's going on. And there's a lot of rumors and intrigues and, how we say in Hebrew, balagan, a big mess. The system cannot function without rules. Sharing a business doesn't mean that sharing the responsibilities, but it means that you have to be loyal and trusting the other who is running the business. It's an issue of trusting your family members. It's complex. The business might be very complex because it might be in a little niche and you need to have a PhD in chemics to understand the formulas which you use to create whatever you create. Or it might be a simple business, which is very complicated. You buy wholesale and sell retail. Also today, not so easy. But the idea is that the business needs its skills. The family needs skills. But what you all need is to be behind one story, the story of the family. And if the story of the family is there and there is rules in place which make sure that everyone is seen and heard, and there's a governance, and there's a constitution, and there's a governance is in place, and the communication, as we said before and illustrated, communication is what makes the family run. If there is more communication between the family members, I'm dealing with many families here in my office and in my practice here in Switzerland, here in Israel and in Switzerland. They always, and it's not only statistics, it's what I see also. If you communicate well, you can also communicate that, sorry, only the first son gets the business, the second and the third are not in the business, you are getting money and real estate and stuff, because the patriarch or the matriarch decided that that's the best way to save the business, but also to save the family. So if you communicate that, the children might not accept it or might not be happy about it, but they will have a discussion and they will learn to accept. If you have not discussed that ahead, and if you have not planned it ahead, and God forbid you die, and your children at the deathbed or at the lawyers when they read the last will, so first time here that the business is going to the big brother and all the rest just getting money, then you have the family fight going on. No question about it. So if you don't prepare the communication, if you don't communicate your decisions, or even better, if you work with your next generation, sit down with them and together build the strategy of how the transition is being done, there is unfortunately a lot of reasons to believe that there will be a failure in the system. But again, who runs the family office? If your CFO or your CPA is doing it, you see the cord in the bottom. They are very good accountants. They're very good financial heads. They know how to run and how to calculate and how to do EBITDA and all those things. But they don't know how to deal with family members who are not thinking like them. They don't know how to handle situations which are not mathematical and not aquarians and no accounting issues. So they are not the right people to run the family office. There is a special skill set. My office here, we have an organizational psychologist who works in our office. Now, we don't have clinical psychologists. No, we don't have a couch and people come here to lie down and tell their secrets of their childhood. But we have also tissue in the meeting room. Yes, people come here and sometimes they cry and sometimes they say how difficult it is to be the next generation of that family or to be the parent of those children which are just spending the money and have no values. So yes, there is a lot of issues, but it's not the CPA who can do that. And now we come to one slide which is very dear to me. We are always talking about the financial capital. EBITDA, IRR, what's the money doing? How much money does it cost? How much did you invest? What's the business like? What's this? What's that? We never actually see what is our asset. The asset you have is your family. Congratulations. You arrived at the destination. You are wealthy. You created something which became beyond every dream. A big business, a lot of wealth. You are rich. You're not getting rich. Now you have to see that you're staying rich. But your absolute wealth is actually the family. It's not only the money. It's not how many millions of dollars you have in the bank, and it's not how many millions of dollars you leave your children for the next generation. It's the intellectual capital. How much brain is in the family? Who is helping the family to think outside the box? We all know about diversity today, and it's not just because of emancipation or because of gender and because of race and because no, it is because diversity helps you to think outside the box. If all of us have ties and jackets and have been to Wall Street and have learned at Harvard, we all think the same way. We need that artist, we need that dancer, we need that gardener, we need that doctor also when we talk about business. Because you might have Peter Lynch in his book a long time ago. Peter Lynch was one of the asset managers of Fidelity. I think he once was a big asset manager. Today, after BlackRock and all those, I think Fidelity is not that big anymore compared to the others. But he was one of, in my childhood or my young banking days, he was important. He once wrote in the book that he was at home reading reports of the brokers, whereas his wife came back from the mall and told him, listen, there is a new shop in the mall. I bought for you a pullover and for the children the training and the T-shirt and the jacket. And he says, yeah. If he would have listened to his wife and he would have heard that in this mall everyone is standing in line to buy those apparels, he would have looked at that company and would have bought, I think the limited, he would have bought the stock at $3. The first broker report was written about this stock when it was already $30. So it's not to wait for the bankers. It's not only the financial capital. Sometimes somewhere in the family, there's someone who has an idea and she or he doesn't know how to express this in the business sense of words, but has an amazing idea. And if you can pick that idea from this person and make something out of it, then you are applying all of your capital, the intellectual capital. The human capital, exactly. That's more or less the same, but it's not. It's how many people are in the family. They're all there. There's your capital. You can deploy them. You can use them. You can apply them. You can use them as a resource. Social capital. You're part of a society. You're part of a community, of a church, of a synagogue, of a mosque. You're part of a village, part of a town, part of a neighborhood. You are someone in the society. So take your place, make yourself seen, and be a leader, not only in your family business, but also in your social. And then, of course, the spiritual capital. There is nothing, if there's no values and there's no morals in your business or in your life, then there's nothing you can do. So if you invest in all those 5 capitals, then you actually get successful. I see I have another 3 minutes, so I will go a bit faster. So who runs the family business? Obviously, running a family office is not family business, family office. Running a family office is important that you communicate, that you facilitate the meetings, that you are keeping it simple so that every family member understands what you're talking about. There's a lot of collaboration. The lawyer, the accountant, the tax advisor, the banker, the CEO of the family business, the driver, the poolman, the carpenter, and the pilot, and the captain of the yacht. Everyone has to be coordinated, work right, look at the risks, are all the contracts signed correctly, are the employments done completely. So the family office has a lot of work and also has to guard the governance and the constitution of the family and help building the legacy for the family to to grow for the next generation. Here's my office, and you see that the circle, we work in all different domains of those capitals, the 5 capitals, sometimes more, sometimes less. Of course, the financial gives a lot of work, but it's also the social, it's the human, it's the spiritual. How can you help the children? How can you make the next generation flourish? It's also sometimes the job of the family office. And last but not least, that's my couch. But the couch is, what are the questions you have to ask yourself? If you want to build a family office, it's not only about how much millions of dollars do you have and do you need a family office because you have more than $500 million. No, a single family office or a multi-family office. No, it is, what is it your family needs? Do you need more catering, more watching after the family history? Is it about financial health? Is it more rules? Is it more a mission? What's the values? What's all those questions have to be asked yourself. How to connect? What makes your family tick, and what's the tradition in your family? So I had another part of the presentation which I left for me if I have time, but I don't. So I just wanted to talk about COVID and what that impacted family offices, because COVID was a hardship for many people, but it was also an accelerator to give family businesses the idea that they have to move on for the next generation, because the older generation had to stay home and protect themselves from the virus. So the younger generation, which was more tech savvy, could start an internet business for the business, etc. So, but this is just another. So I'm done. 44 to the hour. So I'm standing in my time. Thank you very much. If there's any questions or so, I will be hanging around in that lounge or however that works. And it was a pleasure to be with you. I hope it was interesting. And if you're very interested, don't forget, the book is out there, Woes of the Rich, and you're most welcome to read. Thank you very much.